So good day to everyone. I'm here to present our paper for cohort 2, and the paper is entitled Social, Cultural, Psychological, Personal, and Spatial Factors to Urban Transit Safety, Informing AI-Driven Filipino Women Safety Apps. The not so formal title of our paper is SafeHer Transit, What Women Want in Their AI-Powered Safety App. So just a little information about our team. So the team is called AI Empowered Mobility, and we are from the Social Development Research Center of De La Salle University, Manila, Philippines. So I'm Hazel, and I am supposedly the expert in feminist philosophy. In our team is also Melvin Habar, who is an expert on behavioral sciences and sociology, Homer Yabut, who is also an expert in psychology, Rosalia Domingo on gender and development, and Shaina Joy Di Maapi, our user-based design expert. So in terms of the motivations of our paper, we realized that all over Metro Manila and Southeast Asia, transport systems are very much dangerous and unsafe for women. Because of this, there have been apps that are being developed and are being used in order to ensure women's safety. The problem with these apps, however, is that they tend to not focus on the problem of violence against women, but rather they tend to enforce victim blaming mentalities and attitudes. Therefore, what we decided to do in our paper is to ensure that women are participative in the creation of these app concepts and in the rethinking of these models. So the paper basically has a two-pronged task, the first of which is to look at women's perspectives, gather data on an individual level, and in terms of the institutional level, talk to transport operators, app developers, and drivers and government authorities when it comes to transit situation of Filipino women. The second task is to come up with a concept, an informed AI-driven concept that would supposedly be one of the best practices in women's safety when they are in transit. Our problem is basically just four, a very huge problem at that. The first is what are the social, cultural, personal, psychological, and spatial factors that shape urban transit safety? How can social, cultural, personal, psychological, and spatial factors inform AI-driven women's safety apps toward the empowered mobility of Filipino women? We also want to look at the best practices all over the world in terms of safety app development, and basically what type of concept can we draft from all these information that we will eventually gather. So in terms of our approach and methodology, so we started, of course, with an ethics clearance and consultations with the center and with women's groups. We did an online survey with 427 women respondents all over the metro. We did focus group discussions on 5 groups, namely women who have had experience of being harassed in public transportation, those who have no experience. We talked to government authorities as well as transit operators and drivers, and we talked to app developers. We also did an ethnographic study wherein we had 1 male and 1 female ethnographer who went around the metro to observe how women basically commute in buses, trains, and jeepneys. And of course, the final part of our approach is to come up with an app concept. In terms of our qualitative findings, we find that although women are empowered and they find meaning in their commute, in their daily commute, or when they are in transit, they think that there are things and events that are beyond their control whenever they are outside. In terms of the risk, they believe that one of the highest risks in transit is meeting an accident at 64%, followed by violence, being harassed, and sabotage, and of course, sexual violence. This is quite sad, no, because all these things are very much normalized in terms of how they perceive risks. And finally, in terms of our regression analysis, commuting women have they believe that they have the necessary resources, and they believe that they can have stronger perceived behavioral control. However, because of the limited resources, the higher intention to be empowered tends to be hindered. In terms of our qualitative findings, the first thing that comes to women's mind, of course, is looking after themselves and looking at their personal belongings, how operators and drivers manage their chosen public utility vehicles. Safety for them means being protected and defended by transport operators and being able to travel without worrying about being harassed. It's very important for them to be always vigilant and aware about their surroundings when they take public transport. And of course, there's a preference for transiting with someone who knows, someone that they know when they commute. To protect themselves, they bring various weapons, such as pepper sprays. They also bring the safety alarm called Bella, which sounds at an X amount of decibels in order to scare perpetrators away. They also make sure that they are conscious about their surroundings, and they prevent from sleeping in public vehicles. They don't bring their cell phones out. They always pay attention when they alight either buses or trains. They tend to hold their bags in front of them to protect their bodies and to protect their belongings as well. So they also want to be with someone when they travel. So it's important to have a buddy system. But in the event that they can't have their friends or their companions with them, they try to avoid sitting beside men, or they bring other weapons such as scissors or ballpoint pens to protect themselves. So they're very, very vigilant when it comes to riding public transportation. So again, as stated, they bring all these weapons, but since they have their mobile phones at hand, they also use voice-activated Siri or Google speakers and activate emergency calls in the event that they think they need to do so. When it comes to authorities and operators, they believe that women are empowered if there is equality. There's this new law, it's referred to as the Bawal Bastos Law or the Safe Spaces Act, and they believe that this should be enforced, whether in transit or on the road. Now, drivers also want to ensure that passengers are safe. However, there are events wherein the passengers themselves are the ones who become perpetrators, especially in jeepneys. When we talk to app developers, they gave some suggestions in terms of safety apps. So some of the functions that they suggested are safety rating systems, navigational information, reporting unsafe routes, crowdsourced route database, partnering with authorities, of course, panic buttons, the view live maps function, and real-time location detection. In terms of our observation, there's just one similar thing that we noticed with women who ride jeepneys, buses, and trains. They tend to be very vigilant. They hold their bags in front of them. They talk to their friends when they're traveling. They try to be assertive. They try to show that they're confident. And they're very wary of not hitting people when they're waiting for public transportation. So just to summarize our qualitative and quantitative findings, to avoid being harassed, women present themselves as confident and assertive. They make sure that their mental faculties are alert. Some of them bring weapons such as pepper sprays, pocket scissors, ballpoint pens. They even bring this personal safety alarm called Bella. Most respondents are very likely to perceive a higher risk of meeting accidents, violence, sexual harassment in transit. Unfortunately, some of these incidents and actual risks include robbery, physical and verbal sexual violence. Women take precautionary measures such as avoiding dark areas, holding their personal belongings, and keeping emergency numbers in check, and taking pictures of cab plate numbers, and being aware and vigilant of their surroundings. Now, what do women want in their AI-powered app? Now, since most women use their phones already while they're in transit, some of the functions that they have suggested include speed dialing, location tracking, immediate response in the event of transit mishap, emergency numbers, and notifying authorities. and all these other suggested functions. Now, some of these apps have already been, some of these functions have already been existed in other countries, such as Holoback and My Safety Pin. Holoback, for example, features a GPS location with data representing places where harassment has been reported. My Safety Pin, which was created in India, provides information about area based on a scoring system to identify safe and unsafe places. Now, let me present our women empowerment and safety app. It's called SafeHer. So SafeHer empowers women by merging defensive functions with the idea of women's collective strength and action. It integrates operations that call for the cooperation of both local transit authorities and government units and makes perpetrators accountable for their transit crimes. So what we did in the paper is we identified the need, the issue or an incident, and the mode of empowerment, and the AI-driven app response. So in terms of the need for a companion when traveling, the mode of empowerment would be collective strength. Therefore, in our app, we have the nearby women commuters function and the sharing live location to contacts function. In terms of the prevalence of transit crimes, the mode of empowerment would be information, awareness, and vigilance. So the app would be reporting, would be showing the woman a number of reported incidents within the user's vicinity. In terms of the issue of verbal and physical harassment, we believe that the mode of empowerment, as stated by our women respondents as well, is to call out these perpetrators or to bring weapons. So the response that we would have would be a sound alarm, flashing lights, a voice statement saying that police are on their way. We also would like the perpetrators and the government authorities to be accountable for these transit, for the harassment and for the poor, inadequate infrastructure security systems. So the function would be front and rear photos, filing a report and reporting incidents and resolved issues. In terms of the problem of not having an immediate response, we would like to reverse the bystander effect. So the AI-driven app response would be an incident report, emergency texts, medical ID, if necessary, and a recommended tie-up with the barangay or village violence against women desks. In terms of emergencies, of course, one of the empowering actions would be an automatic response. So there would be an SOS alert function, crash and screen detection, and manually triggered SOS alert. And finally, the concern about data privacy. We propose to have user verification as a mode of empowerment and a valid ID and a selfie. So just to give you an idea of what it looks like, so this is going to be the interface of the AI-powered SOS alert. So it has a sound alarm. It's sound alarm enabled. It flashes lights. It takes pictures, and there's an emergency alert. There's a nearby women commuters interface. So it shows you the number of women who are in your vicinity to address the concern about wanting to have a buddy system within the area. There's also a sharing live locations feature and a filing a report feature to make government authorities accountable. There's also a reported incidents and resolved issues. So the government authorities should update us if they've actually resolved an issue. In terms of data privacy, there's going to be a user verification function and a medical ID if necessary. Now, we did a preliminary concept test, and some of the inputs that we got and comments that we got is that the app is similar to Waze and Life 60, but it includes additional features such as making an emergency SOS and reporting incidents. It gives an idea of what it's about. It notifies notifications on resolved issues could include displaying the context and resolution process. Medical information could be optional, but it's very useful, especially if the user is pregnant. There could be a voice only, a single word recorded by user, hand gestures only in order to activate the panic button. And of course, NGOs may assist in the app promotion. Now, one of our recommendations later on is a tie-up with a VOW desk. So in the Philippines, there are 32,000 village or barangay violence against women desks. And their job is to basically assist women who have been survivors of violence. So with this 30,000 number, which is supposed to grow up to 40,000, they have to report incidents as well to local government authorities. So we believe that tying up the app with the vow disc is not only smart, but it's going to be very helpful to the women who encounter issues in transit. In terms of data management, there has been a suggestion to encrypt sensitive user information through passwords using an encryption library, keystone jars, and certificates in the app. The expert suggested the use of an SSL or a transport layer security in terms of privacy authentication. Of course, this should be further consulted with another cybersecurity expert. Now, another suggestion is to have a best route recommendation, which is very similar to Waze. But of course, this is already being done in India. Now, there's also a suggestion to expand the app to smartwatches in order for it to be hands-free. So in conclusion, the empowerment of Filipino women in transit is a combination of defense mechanisms alongside the idea of collective action. There needs to be a cooperation of both local transit authorities and government units. With the unique demographics and psychographic circumstances of communities and locations of Filipino women and their social, cultural, personal, and practical and spatial factors, SafeHer is informed and conceptualized to allow Filipino women to be safer and AI empowered. Thank you very much.